They scared you off? Are you really that afraid?
We finally scared you off, huh?
Not exactly. I'm afraid of what happens when somebody pushes me too far. What?
Be nice!
The movie opens deep inside an underground fight club where a fierce fighter named Carter dominates the ring, claiming victory after victory. Among the roaring crowd, a woman named Frankie walks in, looking for Carter. She wants to hire him as a bouncer for her bar. As she watches, Carter knocks out his opponent, securing his 6th consecutive win. The referees then raises the stakes, announcing that whoever can beat Carter in the next round will take home all the prize money collected that night. A man wearing a hoodie steps into the ring to accept the challenge, but when he pulls the hood down, Carter's confidence instantly fades. The man standing before him is none other than the legendary Dalton. Knowing he doesn't stand a chance, Carter immediately backs out, despite the tempting offer of cash, leaving Dalton with the entire winnings. Watching from the crowd, Frankie realizes that this calm but intimidating man is exactly the kind of person she's been looking for. As Dalton heads toward his car, a frustrated gambler who lost money betting against him blocks his path and impulsively stabs him. Dalton barely flinches, staying calm and collected, which terrifies the man enough to make him run away, abandoning his knife at the scene. While Dalton tends to his wound, Frankie approaches, offering to help.
Do you need an ambulance or something?
She's amazed at how casually he handles the injury, patching himself up without a hint of pain. She mentions that she owns a bar called the Roadhouse, once a decent spot, but now overrun with troublemakers. The police refuse to get involved, so she's been trying to hire someone tough enough to restore order. Originally, she came for Carter, but after witnessing Dalton's composure and skill, she realizes he's the better choice. She offers him $5,000 a week to take the job.
I'm all booked up.
But Dalton refuses and advises her to try Carter instead before driving off into the night.
Think about it.
As he drives, Dalton's thoughts drift to his past as a professional fighter. His expression turns somber, and in a moment of hopelessness, he steers his car onto railroad tracks, straight toward an approaching train. At the last second, he changes his mind, but the car refuses to start. The train slams into the back half of the vehicle, sending metal flying, yet Dalton crawls out with barely a scratch. Shaken but alive, he finally picks up the phone and calls Frankie. Soon after, Dalton arrives in a small coastal town called Glass Key. There, he meets a kind teenage girl named Charlie who helps run a local bookstore with her father.
What brings you to Glass Key?
When he mentions he's come to clean up the roadhouse, they seem surprised but point him in the right direction.
Thank you.
Dalton eventually arrives at the bar where Billy the waiter instantly recognizes him as Elwood Dalton,
Big fan, man.
the famous fighter. The place seems unusually calm, and Dalton even comments on how peaceful it feels. But Laura, the barista, just laughs, knowing the quiet won't last. Her instincts prove right. That night, chaos erupts inside the bar. Bottles fly, glasses shatter, and the live band hides behind a safety net as fists start flying. Dalton simply watches, quietly observing the madness. Not long after, a biker gang storms in.
Wow, it's like a Morgan here.
Harassing customers and intimidating the women. When Billy steps in to defend one of them, the bikers turn on him.
Yeah, there's some thirsty customers waiting for you. I can handle these gents.
Dalton intervenes, trying to defuse the situation peacefully, but as the tension rises, he asks them to step outside. The gang's leader, Dell, refuses, which prompts Dalton to stroll out and deliberately knock over their motorcycles. That move forces the gang to follow him outside. There, Dalton calmly gives them a chance to walk away before things get ugly. He even jokes about whether they have medical insurance or how far the nearest hospital is. The only biker who seems remotely reasonable starts explaining directions to the hospital, but Dell angrily cuts him off.
Shut the up and fight, asshole.
Moments later, Dalton starts taking them down one by one. When they fight back, he effortlessly counters with precision strikes, breaking one man's nose again. He even suggests calling it a draw, but Dell refuses and ends up getting knocked out cold. One of the bikers groans in pain, realizing his arm is broken, and Dalton sarcastically points out that the hospital is only 20 minutes away.
You got a car I could borrow?
I do, yeah, but not for them.
Despite Frankie's protests, Dalton borrows her car and personally drives the injured men to the hospital, even helping them fill out their admission paperwork. At the hospital, a doctor notices him and sarcastically thanks him for filling her ER with troublemakers. But his calm sense of humor catches her off guard, and when she spots his bleeding wound, she insists on treating him. As she stitches him up, she asks whether he enjoys fighting and how often he wins. Dalton explains that no one truly wins a fight. When she offers him painkillers, he refuses, saying he brought the injury upon himself and has to bear the cost. Back at the roadhouse, Frankie pays him for the week, still amazed at his composure and effectiveness. The bar staff can't stop talking about how he handled the bikers. As Dalton admires the view outside, he asks Frankie why the place is called the Roadhouse. She laughs, saying it was named by her uncle who had a strange sense of humor. Dalton mentions a nearby houseboat he spotted and plans to rent, but Frankie tells him it's actually hers. She lets him stay there for free, but jokingly warns him to watch out for the crocodile that killed a local small dog last year. Dalton settles into the boathouse, ironically named The Boat. That night, he dreams about his days in the UFC back when he was fighting for the championship belt. In the morning, Laura surprises him with breakfast and mentions that the Roadhouse has gone through many bouncers before him, hoping this time things will be different. Later, Dalton visits Charlie's bookstore to use their computer, and even there, everyone is buzzing about his fight with the biker gang. While he's there, commotion breaks out nearby. The same bikers are causing trouble again. Charlie grabs a baseball bat to defend her shop, but when Dalton steps outside, the bikers freeze and quickly back off, unwilling to mess with him again. By now, his reputation has spread across town. When he returns to the bar, everyone greets him by name, which makes him laugh.
Was there like a town meeting or something? How does everybody know my name?
Frankie tells him that gossip spreads fast in the small, nosy island community. Meanwhile, far away, on a luxury yacht, the man who hired the biker gang, a local crime boss named Midshave, receives the bad news about Dalton interfering with their plans to destroy the Roadhouse's business. Furious, he continues getting shaved by his barber, ignoring the warning to wait until they reach shore. His arrogance costs him. He gets nicked mid-shave, loses his temper, and punches the captain. Clearly, he's not as tough as he thinks. Enraged, he orders his crew to stand by for further instructions. When one of his men suggests calling his father for help, Midshave angrily refuses. Back at the Roadhouse, another fight breaks out, this time over the music. Dalton seizes the opportunity to train Billy, pointing out a man in a red shirt who's hiding a knife under his clothes. He tells him that when he pulls it out, all he has to do is take one big step back and strike first. It's a simple move that could save a life. Billy manages to pull it off, handling the situation impressively well. Eventually, Dalton decides it's time to step in and do what he's being paid for. With quick precision, he grabs one of the fighters and breaks his wrist, then calmly tells Billy to take care of the rest. Surprisingly, Billy, who's technically just a waiter, handles the chaos like a pro, proving he's got some real fight in him. Over the next few days, Dalton observes Billy managing the rough crowd and offers him small but valuable tips on how to fight better. Meanwhile, Dalton saves his own energy for his workout routine, maintaining his strength and composure. During one of these training sessions, he notices one of the workers reef with scars on his knuckles, clear signs of a boxer. It doesn't take long for Dalton to figure it out. Seeing potential, he decides to team Billy and Reef up as partners to help keep things under control at the Roadhouse. That way, Dalton can finally kick back a little and relax. As the nights roll by, Dalton watches proudly as his two new apprentices handle the bar fight smoothly. One evening, while escorting a drunk man out of the bar, Dalton spots the biker gang. They stare him down coldly before roaring off on their bikes. That night, Dalton's sleep is disturbed by another haunting nightmare from his UFC days, the same title fight that ruined him.
The next morning, he visits a local cafe and unexpectedly runs into Ellie again. They exchange playful remarks, teasing each other, but the light mood fades when Dalton starts wondering why everyone in this town seems so tense and hostile. Ellie explains that in Glass Key, people have their own way of doing things. Loyalty runs deep, family ties rule everything, and even the cops don't always follow the law. The two share a few laughs and flirt a little, their connection deepening beyond casual talk. After another week on the job, Dalton collects his paycheck and drives back to the boathouse. But on the way, he notices a car creeping up behind him. Dalton swerves out of the way, but the car doesn't stop. It reverses and rams straight into him again. His truck ends up hanging dangerously over a bridge. Through the windshield, Dalton spots Dell, the biker gang leader, climbing out of the other vehicle with his girlfriend. They flee the scene, leaving Dalton and his truck to crash into the river below. Dalton survives the fall and drags himself back to the boathouse, soaked and furious. But waiting for him inside is Dell, holding a shotgun. But Dalton reacts instantly. He flips the table, breaking Dell's knees, and throws him into the water. Dalton tries to end it peacefully, telling him to stop before things go too far. Dell, however, arrogantly insists he'll just climb back up. That's when the crocodile Frankie warned him about suddenly appears. Dalton tries to save Dell, but it's too late. The crocodile has already claimed its meal. The next morning, police officers search the area for Dell's body, but a local man casually tells them they're wasting their time. Crocodiles usually hide their food. He mentions he knows this from experience because a croc once ate his dog, Chanty. The same man then tells Dalton that he probably messed up a side business the biker gang was running, most likely drug deliveries. At Charlie's bookstore, she shows Dalton a map of the harbor. She points out that using the roadhouse as a drug dock doesn't even make sense. The surrounding reefs make navigation almost impossible. As Dalton steps outside, a man approaches him, showing off a gun tucked into his waistband. He tells Dalton that his boss, Ben Brandt, wants a word. Dalton stays calm and warns the guy that if he breaks his index and middle fingers, he won't be able to shoot. Then, without hesitation, Dalton demonstrates exactly what he means, snapping the man's fingers and unloading his gun in seconds. Another thug tries to step in, but freezes, too afraid to move. Dalton tells him to pass on a message. If Brandt wants to talk, he can find him at the roadhouse every night. Later, back at the roadhouse, Dalton asks Frankie why Dell and his crew were so obsessed with her bar. Frankie shrugs, saying it's probably just some territorial nonsense. Meanwhile, the thug with the broken fingers reports back to Brandt, admitting he failed. Brandt is furious. His entire plan is crumbling because of one lean, quiet bouncer. It's then revealed that Brandt's real goal is to tear down the roadhouse and replace it with a luxury hotel. Brandt's frustration grows when his father, who's currently in prison, tries to call him. It's a prepaid call, but Brandt refuses to accept it. Instead, he throws his phone into the ocean and, like an idiot, orders one of his men to dive in and retrieve it. His childish behavior makes it clear he's definitely not the brains behind the operation. Meanwhile, in Italy, a tough, unhinged fighter named Knox makes his introduction, literally jumping out of a window, stark naked, fleeing from an enraged husband after. You'd think he'd just fight the guy, but instead, he sprints through the streets, totally exposed. Maybe the husband wasn't alone. Maybe he came home with his buddy Habib Nurmagomedov. No wonder Knox ran. As he hides, he gets a call from Brandt's father, who wants him to come to Glass Key and clean up the mess Brandt created. Knox knocks out a street vendor to steal a jacket, then casually burns down the entire market tent behind him. Back in Glass Key, Ellie surprises Dalton by borrowing her ex-boyfriend's fancy boat and taking him out to her favorite spot in the middle of the ocean for a small picnic. They open a couple of cold beers and talk. When Dalton mentions his trouble with a man named Brandt, Ellie explains that the Brandt family is filthy rich and owns most of the land around town. She gently asks about Dalton's past, but he brushes it off, saying she wouldn't want to know. Ellie admits she already looked him up online and doesn't mind what she found. With the tension gone, Dalton finally opens up a little, and the two share a quiet, intimate moment. Meanwhile, Knox finally arrives in Glass Key, rolling into town in a flashy Ferrari while blasting Dagestani rap. He parks recklessly, knocking over a line of motorcycles outside Brandt's place. When the gang confronts him, he doesn't flinch. Instead, he mocks them and starts giving orders like he owns the place. When Brandt shows up, he's shocked to see his own men cooking food and catering to Knox like servants. Confused, he demands to know who this stranger is. Knox calmly explains that he's been hired by Brandt's father to deliver a message, and that message is simple. Brandt's time is running out. Brandt also notices that Knox carries a duffel bag full of dynamite sticks, a walking bomb just waiting for chaos. Trying to keep control, Brandt tells him that killing Dalton in the middle of town would be suicide. But Knox just smirks and tells him the job's as good as done. It's only a matter of when. Brandt desperately begs for one more chance to handle things his way, and Knox agrees, at least for now. Later that day, Ellie drops Dalton back at the boathouse. His wounds have healed almost completely, like he's got Wolverine's recovery powers. But waiting for him are two police officers. They bring him in for questioning about Dell's disappearance and take him to the docks where the sheriff is waiting. The sheriff, who likes to call himself Big explains how things really work in Glass Key. Everyone's connected, one big family. He offers Dalton a simple choice: leave town, or he'll find a reason to throw him in jail and have him killed there. Dalton mocks the whole situation, which enrages the sheriff. He kicks Dalton and nearly shoots him on the spot until Ellie rushes in, shouting at the sheriff and even slapping him across the face. Dalton, still lying on the ground, can hardly believe what he's seeing. Ellie helps him up and drives him away, explaining the truth. The sheriff is her father. He used to work for Brant's dad, and after the old man went to prison, he switched loyalties to Brant.
You have to leave Glass Key.
She pleads for Dalton to leave town before things get worse. While all this unfolds, Brant's men head to Charlie's bookstore to make trouble. The same night, Dalton returns to the roadhouse for a shift, and Brant finally shows up in person. It's clear he knows Dalton can't be threatened or bribed. Brant even dug up the infamous UFC fight video on YouTube, the same one that haunts Dalton's nightmares. In that match, Dalton was fighting for the championship title against his best friend. He won by knockout, but he didn't stop. He kept punching long after his opponent was unconscious, ignoring the referee's calls, and his best friend died because of it. That one moment of rage has haunted him ever since. Brant mocks him, asking why he just didn't stop. Then, Brant finally unleashes Knox and the entire biker gang on the roadhouse.
This roadhouse is mine. Hey, beautiful! I'm Knox. Let's dance. I love this song, baby, don't you?
Knox, dressed like he's heading to a nightclub, storms in with confidence, declaring that the roadhouse now belongs to him. He starts wrecking the place and even snatches a woman off her date's lap, announcing that he's in charge now. Meanwhile, Dalton sits calmly at the bar, sipping his coffee as if he's watching a Sunday matinee. Billy and Reese kind of stop Knox, but knocks Billy out cold without breaking a sweat. A group of large men rush in, but Knox tears through them like a machine, a one-man wrecking crew. Within moments, the place descends into a chaotic bar fight. Dalton had only wanted a quiet coffee break, but Knox keeps shouting his name across the room. Finally, Dalton gets up to face the Irishman.
You brought all your friends with you?
I was trying to be tough.
What starts as a few sarcastic exchanges quickly turns into a brutal showdown. Knox headbutts Dalton and the real fight begins. After a long, savage brawl that spills outside, Dalton rises calmly from the ground and walks away. Knox just stands there, watching him with a twisted grin, clearly enjoying the challenge. And through it all, the rock band in the corner keeps playing as if it's just another Tuesday night at the roadhouse. Later that night, Dalton returns to the boathouse and starts packing his bags. Frankie shows up, guilt written all over her face. She apologizes for hiding the truth and begs him to stay. This time, she lays it all out. Brant wants to build a luxury resort and has already bought up all the land along the highway, except for her place. She's the last holdout. Brant, desperate and broke, borrowed money from dangerous people. If he doesn't pay them back, he's finished. But Dalton doesn't seem moved, and Frankie finally admits that she's terrified, more than he could ever understand. Meanwhile, Brant learns that Knox failed to kill Dalton. As Dalton prepares to leave town, he spots firefighters and an ambulance outside Charlie's bookstore. Charlie and her father have been rushed to the hospital. That's when Dalton realizes this was Brant's doing. That's the breaking point. Dalton can't suppress his darker side any longer. He heads straight to Brant's place and finds the man behind the arson.
We finally scared you off.
When the man taunts him, Dalton dodges a sudden knife attack and punches him hard in the throat. Calmly, he explains that he's just shattered the man's hyoid bone and collapsed his trachea. He won't be able to breathe. As the man struggles for air, Dalton admits that, yes, he's afraid.
I'm afraid of what happens when somebody pushes me too far. Because I know what happens next.
Dalton loads the lifeless body into a truck, only to run into Mo. Ever the polite biker, Mo nervously mentions that Brant is expecting a big payout at Harvest Key at 5 a.m. Dalton nods, grabs some ice for the body, and heads out to the island. There, he tracks down a corrupt cop delivering the money for Brant. Dalton knocks him out and finds a case full of cash, enough to disappear forever. When the cop wakes, he sees Dalton dragging the body toward the shore and firing the cop's own gun into it. The panicked cop stammers that everyone will know those bullets didn't kill the man. Dalton smirks and starts explaining how concussions work, how a hard hit can erase short-term memory before it reaches the long-term part of the brain. Then, without hesitation, he knocks the cop out cold with a tree branch. Afterward, Dalton uses a payphone to tip off both the police and the media that a cop has just shot a man on the shore. He's setting his plan perfectly in motion. But just as he's preparing Knox a stash of dynamite, the sheriff arrives. The sheriff tells him that Brandt has taken Ellie hostage and will kill her unless the money is returned. Dalton denies taking the cash, but when the sheriff reveals his deputy spilled everything about Dalton's concussion theory, Dalton realizes his plan failed. Cornered, he admits he has the money. The sheriff pleads for his help, saying if his daughter means anything to him, he'll help get her back. Dalton, still skeptical but unwilling to risk Ellie's life, agrees to meet with the cash. He steals a boat right under the nose of Ellie's ex-boyfriend, who also happens to be a cop. The guy protests, but Dalton sails off casually, promising to bring the boat back in a few hours. Meanwhile, Knox is having the time of his life, sipping coconuts and cruising in a car from a driving school, only to find Brandt's mansion completely empty. At the same time, Dalton pulls up to Brandt's yacht. He tells one of the young guards that he didn't bring the money. The man punches him lightly, but Dalton barely reacts. As he confronts Brandt, the conversation turns tense. Brandt rants about how hard it's been to take over his father's corrupt empire and demands his money. Dalton keeps calm, refusing to say where the cash is, especially since Ellie isn't there. He also notices the sheriff looks far too relaxed for someone whose daughter has been kidnapped. That's when the truth hits. There was never a kidnapping. It's a setup. Before Dalton can react, another twist drops. The sheriff admits he actually did take Ellie himself. It's a double cross within a double cross. As tempers rise, Brandt orders his men to hurt Ellie, and right on cue, Knox appears in the distance. Brandt panics, shouting for his men not to let that lunatic on board. Dalton seizes the chaos to blow up the ex-boyfriend's boat, creating a fiery distraction. He then starts taking down Brandt's men one by one, while Ellie tries to break free from below deck. She shatters the cabin window as the yacht begins to sink. Dalton finds her just as water floods the room, and both are swept into the ocean. Dalton fights off one of Brandt's men underwater, while Ellie swims toward another boat, only to find Brandt waiting for her. He grabs her and heads for the roadhouse, determined to destroy it himself. Knox soon catches up, trying to ram Dalton with his boat. Dalton manages to climb aboard, and the two trade blows again. Dalton turns the tables by spinning the boat, launching Knox into the air, but the madman grabs a rope and clings on. Dalton chases after Brandt, dragging Knox behind. Brandt sees them coming and steers straight into Dalton's path, hoping to crash him, but Dalton leaps onto Brandt's vessel just in time. Ellie struggles with Brandt at the controls as the boat hurtles toward the roadhouse. Dalton intervenes, knocking Brandt out cold. He and Ellie dive into the water moments before the boat smashes into the bar. Miraculously, Knox survives the wreck, hijacks a car, and speeds toward the roadhouse. Inside the destroyed bar, Brandt regains consciousness just as Dalton walks in, ready to end this once and for all. Brandt lunges with a fishing spear, but Dalton dodges and starts pummeling Brandt.
Fishing spear.
That's when Knox bursts through the wall for the ultimate rematch. The two men trade blows and sarcastic jabs in the middle of the chaos. The fight is raw and beautifully choreographed. A brutal ballet of strength and grit.
Be nice.
Dalton attempts a rear naked choke, but Knox escapes and stabs him with a wooden stake. As he goes in for the final strike, Brandt yells at Knox to finish Dalton. Annoyed, Knox turns on Brandt instead, finally done taking orders. That gives Dalton just enough time to recover. He pulls the stake out of his own body and drives it into Knox repeatedly, a finishing move worthy of Mortal Kombat. Dalton stands victorious. Ellie rushes in as he apologizes, though she reminds him he saved her life. The sheriff appears, promising to cover for Dalton, but warning him to leave town immediately. Ellie too tells him to go. Wounded but alive, Dalton limps away as Frankie returns to the wrecked roadhouse, determined to rebuild. In the final scene, Dalton boards a bus and quietly says goodbye to Charlie. Back at the burned-down bookstore, Charlie's father discovers a briefcase full of cash, a final gift from Dalton. He runs to stop the bus, but it's already gone. In the post-credits scene, Knox wakes up in a hospital bed, beats up the doctors, and casually walks out, as if nothing ever happened. With that, the story ends here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting recaps.